Everybody. I'm Emily McMaster, the Communications Director for Granite State Ambassadors, and today I'm very excited to be joined by Crystal Balanoff, who is the Conservation Program Manager for New Hampshire Lakes. So Crystal, thank you so much for joining us today. And why don't you start a little bit by telling us about yourself and your journey leading up to this position?
Sure. Thanks, Emily. It's exciting to be interviewed by you today. So, about myself and how I got here. I actually worked for New Hampshire Lakes throughout college while I was getting my degree in watershed management, which is kind of funny because now I'm in the position that I'm in, and I get to kind of lead the show and oversee all of our statewide conservation programs. But my career started with I did some environmental consulting, and I was even a wilderness instructor, but the mission of New Hampshire Lakes kept kind of calling me back. So I worked my way up to the ranks, and I've been here for, I don't know, going on 10 years now.
Well, that's great. Let's learn a little bit more about the organization. So let's start with, when was New Hampshire Lakes formed?
A long time ago. I guess I should preface and say we're a statewide nonprofit, and we were formed back in 1992 when actually two other local nonprofits decided, you know what, we should join forces, and they merged, and thus New Hampshire Lakes was born. And now we are, we're the statewide nonprofit that's working to keep all of New Hampshire's lakes clean and healthy.
So what are some of the things that New Hampshire Lakes does?
Well, I should first start off by saying that our lakes in New Hampshire are very, very important, not just our ecology and everything that depends on our lakes to live and eat and recreate and call home, but it's also from a human perspective, it's our health and well-being. Lakes are very good for us, and obviously we enjoy spending time on them, so it's really important for our tourism and our economy as well. Here at New Hampshire Lakes, we like to joke that we're like the Lorax, except we speak for the lakes. So we really are the voice for New Hampshire's 1,000 beautiful lakes. And what we do, if I could put it all in a nutshell, is we inspire the public to care for our lakes.
That's a great way to put it. And so obviously there's a lot of community involvement. So what would you say your role in the community is?
Well, we have a lot of partners that we work with to do our work. So we work with partners at both the state and local levels. To implement clean water policies, carry out our conservation programs, which are the boots on the ground programming actually happening in our communities, and really promote the responsible use of our lakes. So what we're trying to do is we're generally building a community of people that love and care for our lakes.
Great. So I think that one of the important components of your program is your lake hosts. And so we'd love to hear a little bit more about what the lake hosts do. So let's start with that. What do they do? What is their role?
Yeah, lake hosts are great. And when I was in college, I was a lake host for 4 years. I loved it so much. Honestly, sometimes I wish that I could still be back sitting by the lake being a lake host, even though it's an honor to be, doing what I'm doing today. But lake hosts are, they're the first friendly face that a boater sees when visiting some of our lakes here in New Hampshire. So lake hosts will greet any visitor that comes to the lake, and they essentially they do education and outreach to teach these individuals about aquatic invasive plants and animals that threaten our lakes, and what they can do, what that boater or that visitor can do to protect the beautiful lake that they're visiting from those things that might harm them. And through that, they offer something called a courtesy boat inspection, which basically just means they get to walk around the boat with the boater and, point out where some snag points could be. Sometimes lake hosts even find specimens of a plant or animal on a boat that they get to submit in for identification. And I tell you what, we get a handful of what we call saves every single year. So sometimes a lake host can actually save a lake from getting infested by an aquatic invasive species simply doing that courtesy boat inspection. So it's really fun. It's a really inspiring job. There's also, or volunteer job, depending. There's also a lot of downtime. So, your office or the location that you're volunteering at is by the lake. And so sometimes you're just sitting there by the lake reading your book, and other times you're interacting with people and getting to know folks. So it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like it. So if somebody were interested in becoming a lake host, how would they go about doing that?
It's a great question. So it's not that hard. We offer a about a 2-hour training session. So we offer live online sessions as well as recorded sessions. And during these trainings, we will teach you, sort of preventing aquatic invasive species 101. It's super simple. It's just the clean, drain, and dry method. So we will teach volunteers about that method and how to teach others about it. We'll teach them how to conduct a courtesy boat inspection, how to fill out a brief survey form and things like that, and just give them all the tools that they need to be successful in this role of communicating with, sort of cold calling on strangers when they're out there by the lake. So for individuals that really like to be very friendly, that like to meet new people and be that kind of engaging person, this is a really phenomenal opportunity for them because you get to meet a ton of new faces and just welcome people to the lake.
Absolutely. And so in addition to being well informed on the lakes, are there certain questions that the lake hosts typically get from customers, from boaters?
Yeah. A lot of the times it's what is it that you do here? So lake hosts are pretty recognizable. This program has been around for over 20 years. So for folks that live in New Hampshire and visit our lakes regularly, they know all about lake hosts. They know what they're here to do. But for people that are visiting the lakes for the first time, and you're greeting them as they approach the ramp, they might be like, who are you? So, it's a great opportunity to just provide some information about aquatic invasive species and the impact they can have on our lakes. People do not need to be an expert in lake ecology in order to volunteer as a lake host. You just need to know that, they disrupt the local ecology by outcompeting with our indigenous species, and they can make recreation pretty unpleasant and sometimes dangerous. People might ask, well, how is it that aquatic invasive species spread? And we know through data that we've collected that the majority of new infestations are located at boat launches. So we know that boaters or people that haven't properly cleaned, drained, and dried their boats are the primary vectors for spreading these things in between water bodies, which is awesome because that means that we all have this great power to make sure that we're not continuing to spread them. So those are two of the biggest questions that that people will have. And sometimes, boaters want to know, does it really matter? Can I make a difference in protecting or even potentially harming this lake? And so having people that can be really inspired and say, yes, absolutely. When I was a lake host, I had the awesome experience of actually pulling an aquatic invasive species off of a handful of boats during, my 4 years back in the day. And, being able to be like, wow, not only my effort as a lake host mattered, but that boater that allowed me to perform this courtesy boat inspection also mattered, because if we didn't have that interaction and if they didn't care enough to go through this process with me, they could have potentially introduced that into the lake. And it just takes one fragment of a plant or maybe one larva of an animal to start a new population. So it is very important.
Of course. And so your organization is statewide, and there are obviously lakes all over New Hampshire. So could you provide us with a couple examples of some of the lakes that you have lake hosts at?
Totally. We have lake hosts stationed at over 100 boat ramps across the state. And that those ramps can fluctuate. Sometimes new people join the program every year, I guess is what I'm saying. But you can definitely expect to see lake hosts at some of our busiest lakes like Winnipesaukee, over on Newfound, even remote, beautiful lakes like Nubinussit. Of course, all of our lakes are beautiful, but Nubinussit is kind of remote. Granite Lake, Pawtuckaway Lake, and even on some of our smaller lakes as well, like Country Pond or Kingston Lake or Swains Lake. So all over the state. Pretty much any town you're in, there's a pretty fair chance that there is a lake with a lake coast on it there.
Well, that's very good to know. That means there are lots of opportunities for volunteering all over the state. And this program is a very important component of what you do, but you also do a lot of other things. So could you tell us a little bit about some of your other programs?
Absolutely. It would be hard to mention all of them. We also advocate for clean water policies at the state level. So we have an advocacy program that people can volunteer and get involved with. We have some youth-based programs like our Watershed Warrior program. So if people love working with kids, we have a kit that can be taken to fairs and town days and things like that. And then another really major conservation program is our Lake Smart program. So Lake Smart is a lake-friendly living program where we work with individual property owners to discover what opportunities they have on their property, in their home, in their lifestyle to live in a more lake-friendly way. What opportunities do we all have to just be a little bit more lake-friendly? Because no matter where you live, whether you're, on the lake or miles from it, everything we do affects the lakes that we love. And so it's a really fun time to just work with folks, see how they like to use their property, how they like to recreate in New Hampshire, and then just give them some easy tips and tricks that they can implement to ensure that they're doing better for water quality and wildlife without being overly burdened.
Of course. Well, New Hampshire Lakes is a great organization to learn about, and this has been incredibly informative. Is there anything else about the organization that you would like to share?
Sure. We think it's really important for folks to know that we go about lake conservation in a unique way because there's no question that our lakes can't take care of themselves. They need me, they need you, they need all of us to work together to make sure that our lakes have a healthy future. And so we meet people where they're at through all of our programming because we think it's important to build that community relationship and those one-on-one relationships. People learn best from their neighbors, not by somebody sitting in an office 40 miles away telling them what to do. And so folks that join with our organization that are our volunteers or our supporters, they're part of a really unique community all working towards protecting this resource that we love.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for joining us today, Crystal, and sharing with us your passion for the lakes and information about the organization. We really enjoyed learning about it.
My pleasure. I am so grateful for the opportunity to sort of spread the word about our wonderful programming, Emily. So thanks for your time.